Hello there. This is Teresa at Travel by Books, and this video is going to be about our experience at the Washington, D.C. Pen Show, and I'm also going to show my pen show haul. We drove to the D.C. show, and what was supposed to have been about a 6.5 hour drive turned into a 7-hour drive due to the road construction that was taking place and all the lane closures. But we finally arrived at the Marriott Fairview, which is a very nice venue for the show. This was our first time at the DC show, by the way, so we had never been to that hotel before, and we found it to be a very nice location. It was in a nice wooded area, probably a medical park or industrial park area, possibly, and it was kind of remote and removed from the traffic, so it was a peaceful location. It was very nice with ample parking. So we arrived on Thursday because we had traders passes, and we went straight on in to the registration desk and picked up our passes, which came with this nice lanyard. And along with that packet, we also got this really nice drawstring tote bag provided by Galen Leather Company. It's really a large bag, as you can see, to hold lots of pen show purchases. So this was much appreciated by all the pen show attendees. And as a little surprise bonus, Galen Leather included a nice leather pen sleeve. And I noticed that it seemed like everyone had a different color, so there were a variety of colors of these pen sleeves available. Another complimentary item at the show, and this was at the Leonardo table, was a very nice, colorful tote bag. Another tote bag. This came as a real surprise. I really wasn't expecting this. I had walked up to the Leonardo table, and I think it may have been Clarissa said, "Do you want a tote bag?" And I said, "Sure." There were also complimentary copies of Pen World magazine being given out at the registration desk, and this one was a very nice issue featuring articles about Banu pens and a real nice spread on Andurilium. There's also information in here about the recent Triangle Pen Show and about the Pen Hospital. Some very interesting information. And there was also this included slip that gave attendees of the DC Pen Show a few dollars off of the subscription rates for the magazine. Most of the vendors were still in the process of arriving and setting up on Thursday. Galen Leather, Stax Pens, and Studio Agakakon were a few of the vendors that I noticed were set up and ready for business. But because there weren't that many vendors to check out on Thursday, it gave my daughter and I a chance to get acclimated to the hotel and check out the different ballrooms. I did have an opportunity to meet some of the people in the pen world. I met Jonathan Brooks in the hallway by the registration desk, and Aziza, and I saw David Parker. I think he was helping Van Ness set up their display. And we had a nice conversation with Mike Matheson about the different attributes and advantages of various messenger bag and backpack brands. So we got an early start on Friday morning, and my first stop was at Carolina Pen Company's table. Was already a significant crowd of people in front of the table by about 10 till 9, and 9 a.m. was the official show opening time for the weekend traders. So everyone got an early start. And this was my purchase from Jonathan Brooks. This is the unicorn horn resin. And there was a lot to choose from at that table. But this is ultimately what appealed to me the most. It's difficult to choose. Jonathan has so many beautiful resins. The idea for the colors in this resin were suggested by his daughter Aiden. I had a medium nib, a fine nib put in the pen, and it has the Carolina Pen Company logo on the pen, which is the outline of the state of South Carolina with a palm tree. This pen writes beautifully. It writes very smoothly, very nicely. And Jonathan included one of his branded rickshaw bags pen sleeve, which is much appreciated. While there, I also picked up one of his rickshaw bags pen koozies. And then I moved over to Mayfair Pens table. My daughter Robin was over there. Mayfair Pens had created a pen by the name of Gondolin. All of their pen models are inspired by the Lord of the Rings. And the Gondolin pen was probably number one on her list of pens to see at the DC show. And Mayfair Pens had brought one of those to the show, one only. And my daughter purchased that pen. She was very happy. The resin for the Gondolin pen was created by fountaintelling. So while we were over there, I started looking at these pens, and this is the Vanyar model. The resins on the end of the pen is by Turk Pen Company, and it is the Greek Isles and Achilles teal resins. And the sparkly resin in the center of the pen is by Storm Winds Blanks, and this is called Blue Sparkles. It's a very unusual, very beautiful pen. Lots of chatoyance, lots of sparkle and pattern in this pen. And I got a stub nib on this pen. And right now I have it inked with Diamine Vintage Copper. Our next stop was at the Andorrelium ink table, and we just sat down and tried just about every ink that Andorrelium had available to sample. And we had a lot of fun over there. The folks at Andorrelium are just super nice people and were as helpful as they could possibly be. And I ended up purchasing 2 of their inks. One was the limited edition for the Washington, D.C. Pen Show, and that is a dark blue ink called Potomac. And after I got home and swatched that ink, it's a beautiful shade of blue that actually has some red shading, a slight red shading in it. And then I got their Andorelium bobtail squid green, which is just a wonderful bright green color. Both of these, I already have them inked up in some pens, and they're both very well behaved, beautiful inks, just beautiful. And on the subject of ink, as I passed by the Narwhal table, I picked up a bottle of their Starry Night. They had a number of nice looking inks on their table, but this one has a lot of glitter and shimmer and sheen and just all kinds of things going on. You can see that, maybe see that green sheening that has settled in the bottom. And it is a dark blue ink. At least that's how it first presents itself. But when it dries, it has, if you use a stub or broad nib, it has a sort of green gold shimmer to your writing. So that's cool. And while we're on the subject of inks, I very much wanted some Troublemaker inks. I'd been hearing for a while now about the Troublemaker inks, and those have been somewhat difficult to find. But someone told my daughter that Helens Creations had a selection of the Troublemaker inks, and so we went over to that table, and I was able to find the Troublemaker Abalone, which is the one that I'd heard people talk about the most, or had read about the most, and the one I was most curious to try. So yay, I was able to find my Troublemaker ink at the table of Helens Creations. And she also had a wonderful selection of pen kimonos and glass dip pens. And so I picked up this dip pen because I didn't have one. And I've been really enjoying using it. I've just been living in fear that I will break it while I'm using it. So it requires a little bit of extra caution. But I've really enjoyed my purchases from the table of Helens Creations. And my next purchase was at Dave Dollar Custom Pens. And just take a moment to appreciate this nice box that Dave put my pen in, and notice the dollar stamp in the center of the box. And he included his business card and a stamp. I like my a sticker. I like my pen stickers. And this is the pen that caught my eye at the Dave Dollar table. And this is a Liberty model pen, so called because on the finial is a replica of the Liberty dollar. I think that's a really nice touch. It adds an extra bit of class to an already classy pen. The resin for this pen was created by Bob Dupross at Helens Creations, and the resin is called Belize Cenote. Now, blue is my favorite color. Blue and teal and turquoise, and this pen has an abundance of teal and turquoise, along with the warm tones of copper and lots of gold sparkle. Out of all of the beautiful pens that Dave had on his table, this was the one that spoke to me. And it said, "Buy me." And I selected a stub nib for this pen. How could you not? How could you not get a stub nib for a pen this sparkly when you know you need to use a shimmer ink in it? So yes, I am very happy with this pen purchase. These are some of the business cards I picked up at the DC show. We spent a good long time at the Griffos Table, listening to all of his stories and looking at all his beautiful, unique pens. I highly recommend the next time you're at a pen show, if the Griffos Table is there, stop by and prepare to be entertained and to see some gorgeous pens. We also met Cheney Florini at Cheney's Ohana Designs and had a nice long conversation and admired all of her beautiful stationery and pen sets. And she has some really gorgeous things, and we so much enjoyed meeting her and talking with her. She's just a delightful person. These items were not purchased from Jeannie at the DC Pen Show. This set was actually my Mother's Day gift, but I just wanted to include this in the video to show you some of Jeannie's beautiful designs. After a much-needed coffee break, my last stop for the day was the Leonardo Table, and they had a selection of fountain pens that were created especially for the DC show. I think there were about maybe 4 or 5 different resins, and this was the one that I brought home. And this is the Galaxy Prime resin, which is a Jonathan Brooks resin. And that is just superb, just amazing. The glitter and the colors and that Galaxy Prime resin. I know every time I say Galaxy Prime, I think of Transformers. I can't help it. Another interesting thing about this pen is that it features the new cap band for Leonardo. You can just see the wings there, and it has the Leonardo name engraved on the back of the cap. I really like this new style, and this pen has the ruthenium trim. Look at that beautiful fine nib. Someone I showed this pen to said that it was sultry. That was their description of it, and I think that is a very good description. The dark colors, the nighttime colors of the pen with the ruthenium trim. Yes, it is very much a sultry pen. And I met Salvatore Matroni over at the Leonardo Table. And that was a distinct pleasure and an honor. It was like meeting a superstar of the pen world. So that was a very pleasant experience. So that pretty much wraps up my video about the DC Pen Show and my pen show haul. We only stayed at the pen show Thursday afternoon and all day Friday because we had some family obligations at home to take care of. I really hate that we missed out on the seminars, the podcast by Goulet Pens, and the talks given by David Parker of Fig Boot on Pens and Mike Matheson. I would have really liked to have been present for those talks. I'm sure it was wildly entertaining. But if you've stuck through the video this long, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.